some employees who are performing very well will not communicate to them, will not tell them that you have performed very well. And the fear is usually if we communicate to the employees that they are performing better, they also expect a recognition, or let's say we will not just tell them you are so, for example, if it's scheme, we'll not just say students have given a response that you're performing very well. That lecturer will start looking at, can I get also something better? Can I be rewarded for that? So now, because of management don't want to get into those arguments, they don't want to engage themselves in such scenarios, then they will only identify those negative responses and pass those negative responses and ignore the positive ones. So in that case, we are not encouraging. Even those who are performing better, they start now looking at a mechanism. Okay, even if I do better, I've never discussed in the meeting. But if I don't do better, that's when I will be discussed. So they will start looking at those weaknesses. Then instead of working on themselves because they cannot improve, they start looking at other options, how to deal with their life. But now, organization that does appraisal, where objective employer appraisal and communicate to those employees that if they have performed better, they give them their correct scores or give them their correct feedback. In that case, such organizations, we say they value their employees. Then that also leads us to the point number 6, the human resource management by objective. Now, when you say human resource management by objective, I'll ask you a question. If on Monday, you are supervisor, assuming you are a supervisor where you work, and on Monday, one of your employees report to work at 8:30 when he was to report to work at 7:30. What will you deal? How will you deal with such an employee? I'll repeat the question. If your employee on Monday reports at 8:30 when he was supposed to report at 7:30, how will you deal with such an employee or such a case? Anyone who would like to share how we deal with that case? Yes, Hannah, go ahead or unmute.
As a HR, I think
Yeah.
I should call that employee
Mm-hmm.
and inquire the reason
Mm-hmm.
they came late, because in most circumstances
Yeah.
someone can't do that intentionally.
Mm.
Maybe they got something they were supposed to attend to, or they got an emergency of
Yeah.
which they didn't manage to call the institution. So
Mm.
first I have to call to talk with the employee and inquire
Mm-hmm.
the reason behind it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Thank you. Another person who has probably a different perspective. Jacqueline says talk to employee to inquire the reason as to why he or she came later. Uh-huh. If this employee is coming late for the fourth time, assuming the past 1 week he has been coming late, how will you deal with that now? Consistently, he has been coming to office late. Anybody who would like to give us an opinion?
I think
Yeah,
such a, if you have talked with the employee for the sometimes back, you
yeah.
should give them a warning.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But do you also know that sometimes the reason why employees will come late, and that's what we'll discuss at when we get to chapter 8, which I believe we might discuss today. Do you think it's sometimes management are the reason why employee will come to work late? Yeah. Do you think you can go to work late just because of the management? Fred, Jacqueline, Hannah, do you think somebody could be go to work late just because of the management that they do have? Yes, who's giving us feedback? Fred, go ahead. Yes.
It's not justifying to go to work late because you have issues with the management.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I
Okay.
think if there's an
Okay.
issue,
Mm-hmm. Okay. We'll discuss that much once we get to topic 8, which we'll discuss in a short while. Then you'll see there are some reasons sometimes when you find employees are coming to work late or they are absenting themselves, it's not necessarily because they want to come to work late. At times they are reacting to management. It could be an issue with the management, not necessarily the manager in charge, but the whole management process is what could be motivating them to come late. And that's why we are saying that as a human resource manager, you should manage employees with the objective. Like what Hannah suggested, that if this employee is coming to work late, kindly someone get him to office, talk to him, try to find out some of the reasons why he is coming late and all that, because at times the expectation of management could be so high that the employee cannot meet. So if it's so high, then that employee will start looking for shortcuts to avoid meeting those awkward expectations. Just for example, if I told you on Monday there's a meeting and there's a report you are supposed to give, and you don't have that particular report, or you are not in position to get that particular report, you have requested for support from management and they have not necessarily given you support, or they have not given you an access to get that particular report, you are likely to fall sick, and you are likely to Monday morning when you wake up, instead of reporting to work, you are prepared to go to work, but you go through a hospital, so that you have a justifiable reason why you are late. So that if you are asked why are you late, you say I went through hospital, I was sick. And if you are sick, there's no way management can reprimand you why you are not in school. So in that case, as a HR manager, we need to manage our human resources with objective. If our employee has a problem, we need to do counseling. That's why there's a unit you are doing, or you will do next semester, about employee counseling. You need to counsel that particular employee. You're not just a manager, HR manager, you're not just a manager, you're also a counselor. You have to find out. You are a psychologist. You can read. If this person is giving these reasons, you are, as a psychologist, you are supposed to learn the psychology of that person and assess if at all he's telling the truth or fooling you. Otherwise, you might end up having a situation where employees will plan and concord some activities, then they will eventually let you suffer. Get. So you must manage our human resources by objective. So in that case, if we are managing with by our human resources by objective, in that case, we'll say we value our employees. If today an employee had a problem, as a HR manager, you summoned that particular employee to office, you talked, he shared with you. It could be personal problems, but you tried and get solution to those personal problems. Remember this: that employee will always remain indebted to you because you solved their personal problem, as much as not related to work, but you provide the solution to it. So in that case, that a particular employee will always feel comfortable to work with you. But if somebody, let's say, he has come home to work late, and some of the reason why he has come to work late, he didn't have some finances, so he had to trek, come by foot. That's why he's late. And that particular employee did not have even meal yesterday. He doesn't know even how he'll get home in the evening. Then you you are up on arms. It's like he has committed a heinous act. He has committed a serious crime. You give a written warning, or you are giving him a show cause letter why disciplinary action should not be taken against him. There's no way you are going to discipline somebody for not having resources to come to work. Find out, have you delayed his salary? Have you in any way, is there his dues? Probably he worked overtime and he had to spend his money. He has made a claim, you have not paid. So you can look at those things. They could be contributing that he worked, you didn't pay, that's why he is late or whatever. So if you manage our employees by objective, in that case, it shows that you value human resources. Number 7 is HR as a profit center. Now, in a business, we have two centers. We have what we call cost center. You can note it down. We have what we call cost center, and we have what we call profit center. Now, I'll define cost center and then also define profit center. Then you try to tell me if at all HR qualified to be categorized as a cost center or a profit center. Ako. Now, for profit center, this could be a department or a section that generates revenue to the organization, revenue that's adequate to take care of their cost plus contribution towards profit of the company. On the other hand, cost center is a department or a section that does not produce revenue, and it depends on revenue generated from other departments for their own operation. I'll repeat that definition. For cost center, is a department or a section that does not generate their own revenue, and they depend on other departments for their budgets. Whereas profit center is a department or a section that generates their own revenue and adequate to support their operation and also contribute towards profit of the organization. Now, according to you, does HR generate their own revenue, or does HR depend on the revenue generated by other departments? Anyone who would like to give us a view? Does HR generate their own revenue, or they depend on the revenue generated by other departments? Any? Fred? Yes?
I think it depends on revenue generated. Although you need to invest, the HR need to invest on the staffs working on other departments
Yeah.
for that income to be generated.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other person with the feedback? Beyonce? Beyonce? Beyonce and Martha and Nancy, at least you have not talked to us today. Nancy, Martha, Beyonce. Do you think HR generate their own revenue, or do they depend on other departments? Yeah. In class. Okay, Jacqueline say, I think they depend on other departments. Who else has a different opinion? Who else has a different opinion? Martha, I can see you have unmuted. Can't you talk to us?
Yeah, I wanted to support what Jackie and Fred have said.
Yeah.
Being a service delivery, the HR department depends on the revenue from other departments. So they contribute in ensuring the other department generates the revenue by ensuring the staffs, maybe they require the relevant skills, the training, they organize for the training, for the workshops to ensure that the other departments are generating revenue for the organization.
Yeah. Then, should we categorize salaries that we pay to our employees as expenses? Is it fair if we categorize salaries paid to our employees as expenses? Anyone who would like to give us opinion, his or her opinion? Yes, Fred, I can see you are on. Do you think we should categorize salaries we pay to our employees as expenses?
I don't think so.
Why
That is
don't you think so?
that is a reward for their work which they have done. But according to accountants, it's an
Yeah.
expense.
You are lost, according to accountants?
It's an expense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nancy says yes, the salaries will be under expenses. Now, I support your views. According to financial accounting, we categorize salaries as expenses. We also categorize if at all we have to spend. Remember, we at some point we discussed about HR costs, and we talked about recruitment costs, we talked about welfare cost and all that. So according to conventional accounting or financial accounting, we consider those as expenses. But now, according to HR accounting, we are saying that we shouldn't look at that as expenses. We should look at that as investment. If at all we are paying, for example, if some of you have been sponsored by your employer to attend to this class, your employer should not look at it as an expense. He should look at it as an investment, because he expect you to improve, that after this course you must, the perspective you look at some cases will not be same as the perspective you have been looking at those cases, so you'll have some improvement. But if we don't do that, if we consider that as an expense, then most likely we'll say we don't want to sponsor any employee to go for further training. We don't allow our employees. We'll say that all employees should be at work, let's say from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. So in that case, by 8 p.m., there's no school that's opened. This employee cannot access school. So in that case, we are not giving room for that employee to become better, to improve himself. In that case, the organization will also not improve. Now, and that's the perspective I was saying that we should look at human resource not just as a cost center, but we should look at it as a profit center. That those organizations, those departments, for example, marketing deals with the sales. But as much as they deal with the sales and they generate revenue, can marketing sell commodities that have not been produced? No, they can't sell commodities that have not been produced. Can marketing make orders for production of commodities directly from production? No, there's a channel. They must go through channels. If at all marketing have to sell a certain commodity that's currently trending, then there's a channel how they pass that information to production to produce the unit that will be sold. Now, the link between all these departments is a HR. It's a HR which is providing a conducive environment for production department to produce those items. Now, it's the HR which is providing a conducive environment for marketing department to do those sales, to generate that revenue. If they were not providing those conducive environment, then it means that production will not take place and marketing will also not take place, and then revenue will not be generated. So we should look at HR not as a cost center. We shouldn't look at HR as just a department that depends on other department. You should look at HR at a different perspective, at a different angle. You should look at it as the only department that supports all other departments, the only department that deals with all production. So in that case, they are involved in all affairs of all departments. So for that matter, we should look at HR as a profit center and not necessarily as a cost center. Then the expenses we incur on HR, that means we shouldn't look at them as expenses. We would rather look at them as an investment into human resources. Then point number 8, that's the employee net promoter score. Now, to be able to explain this point of employee net promoter score, I will ask this. In this year, whose organization has done recruitment? I'll do one by one. A roll call. Starting with the Beyonce. You are at the top. Beyonce, when did you last recruit in your organization? When did you last recruit in your organization?
Excuse me, sir. I don't work.
Okay, you don't work, sorry.
Yes, I'm a businesswoman.
Oh, I presumed the Saturday, you are weekdays, you are at work, then you attend classes on Saturday, but no problem. So for those who are working, like Fred, when did your organization last recruit? Fred, can you
Last
talk?
year.
Last year.
Yes.
You had made contact with your classmates by then?
Yes, the current class that you are using physical.
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
they know that your organization is recruiting?
Yes, they knew because I shared with them the advert.
The advert.
Yes.
Okay. Another person, Hannah. Hannah.
Fellas, they usually recruit of Henry
Uh,
because it's a medical field.
yeah.
So most of the time they are in search of medics.
Okay. Now, did you inform your colleagues? Even if it's a medical field, they are recruiting doctors. Did you inform your classmates that there was a recruitment?
Not all of them. I just told few friends
Yeah.
and those whom I think they could have benefited from it.
Okay. Yes, Sarah, thank you. I think at least you shared. Jacqueline, when did you last recruit in your organization?
It was last year.
Yeah, last
Yeah.
year. Did your classmates know there's a recruitment?
I was not on my.
You are?
I didn't have classmates by then. I joined Kim in January this year.
Okay, General. Okay, no problem. For Martha? Martha Wanjiku, then Nancy. Martha?
Yeah, we have had one vacant position that was filled up in May, but before then I had not joined. I rejoined the classes during this semester, July, December.
Okay, so you didn't have, okay, Sawa. Nancy? Nancy Gadenya, when did your organization last recruit? Last year. Did you have contact with your classmates currently? Okay, no. Now, this is the essence for me asking you that question. In organization, we have three categories of employees. The first category we have called promoters. We have category of employees whom we refer as promoters. That if we are recruiting, let's say if Kim currently is recruiting, you'll find that I will share those adverts to my contacts. It could be by way of posting on my Facebook page. It could be by way of posting on my WhatsApp status. It could be by way of posting into some of the groups that I have, let's say classmates or former classmates and all that, or the groups that we have formed, or it could be even the groups that we share with the students. So I'll post there that particular advert so that let them make decision if they want to apply or not to apply. It's not fit for me to choose and say, but now because you are doing HR, you are only involved in HR. You could be doing HR just to diversify your career, and probably you have done another course, you have done your degree in a different field, so you are only doing HR to diversify. So in that case, it's not good for me to select and say, now I feel you don't qualify for this. No, I sent you that advertisement, and then it's you to make a decision that considering the requirement, you don't qualify, or considering the requirement, you don't want, or considering your personal perspective, you don't want to apply for that particular position. So such kind of people, we refer to them as promoters. With such kind of people, we refer to them as promoters, because they will talk to other organizations, they'll talk to other members relating to our organization. Remember, the person who will talk to a friend or a relative about the organization recruiting, that person can also talk to a potential client and sell your products. That's why we refer to them as promoters. But any person who cannot talk to his employer, who cannot talk to his friends, if the company is recruiting, that person cannot also talk to your clients to tell them about availability of products. Get it? So in that case, that's why we refer to those as promoters. The second category, we refer to them as passive. We refer to them as passive. The passive, these are employees who will not talk anything about our organization. Either they are happy or they are sad about the organization, they will never talk about it. That if I work at Kim, I wouldn't like even my parents to know where I work. I wouldn't like even my wife to know where I work. I wouldn't like, would like my family to know in the morning I'm waking up, going to work, but they don't know where I work. In the evening, I'll come back safe with them, shopping and whatever. So if they ask me where I work, I will not disclose as long as I've provided whatever they require. So in that case, that particular kind of employee, we refer to them as a passive. Then we have the third category, which we refer to them as detractors. We refer to them as detractors. Now, detractors is a category for employees who are usually complaining. Most of the time, they are complaining. If let's say I work with the Kim, I will always complain, oh, at Kim salaries delay, or at Kim they don't have good medical cover, at Kim they don't have this staff welfare, at Kim they don't recognize performance, at Kim they. So I'll always give the negative part of Kim, but I'll never give the positive part of Kim. And note this, as much as I will complain about Kim, as much as I'll give the negative side of Kim, but if you give me a link that your organization was recruiting, and you feel I qualify, and you feel I'm the person who can fit in that particular position, and I've complained Kim is paying low salary, and your organization is willing to give me double what Kim is paying me, and you give me a link that I can even talk to a director directly, so that I'm not taken through the long process of interview and all that, I still not apply for that particular job. So I'll complain about Kim, I'll talk negative about Kim, but I will not resign from Kim. I will not look for employment elsewhere. So you'll find this person ever complains about that organization, but for years and years he's working in that organization. For years and years, you'll give him link to go get another employment, he will read. You'll give him a link to start off his business, he can't do that. But he'll always complain about that particular organization. So that case, that's the person we refer to as detractors. Remember, as much as he's complaining about staff welfare, he's complaining about salaries, he's complaining about that. If he meet a customer, the same way, he'll also complain about service, even the services he's supposed to offer. Like if I met a prospective student I'm the one who is going to teach that particular student, but I'll still tell him that teaching is not taking place at Kim, or Kim has this problem, so they don't teach, they don't do this. So in that case, I'm discouraging that particular student to join Kim. So I cannot market the institution. So such kind of employees, we also need to identify them so that we know those who are detractors. We can try as much as possible to reduce them, or to reduce the element of distraction that they will cause. Because as they discourage those who are willing to apply for employment, they'll also discourage the customers to come to our organization. Then for passive, we can also look at how we can motivate them to talk well about our organization, so that they don't just be there, not to be seen and not to be heard. Yeah. Then we have absenteeism rates. That's another way to look at employee contribution of employee. Now, when you talk of absenteeism rate, that's where an employee has not reported to work and is not on official leave. Remember, an employee could be out of work, but he had requested for leave. So that kind of employee, we don't consider that as being absent. So if I had notified you I will not be available, then it means I'm not absent. But if at all I had not notified you that I will not be available, but I'm not available, then it means I'm now absent, because you can't account for where I am. Now, there are some organizations where absenteeism rate is high. And the absenteeism rate will be high, said alluded earlier, sometimes because of the management. If at all management are requesting for what you cannot provide, in that case, you'll try to look for mechanism not to be available, so to provide that particular report. And I give you an example. If at all on Monday, I'll be asked to, let's say, to provide a report on financial collection of Kim, and I don't have any access to a system for Kim to run the reports and get that particular information. Yes, I have the capability, I have the knowledge, I can analyze that information, but now I don't have access to that information. So in that case, I will try, if I come and manager portrays me as if I've not worked on whatever I was to work on, or if a manager portray me as if I've declined to do, or I've declined to offer some services, or if a manager try to demean that because I've not be able to access that information, so I could not analyze, so he demean and say, yes, you are an accountant, but you cannot provide simple information like analysis of the financial performance. In that case, the following meeting, I'll not feel comfortable to come and again be demeaned. So the meeting time, I'll try and get a reason to be late, or I'll try to get a reason to be absent. And I'm being absent just because of how manager has treated me. I'm getting absent because of how the treatment I'm getting from employment. And those treatment, it means I'm not valued at that particular place. Because if I'm valued, then management could have facilitated me to get that information. Management could have facilitated me to get that idea, so that I'm able to perform. But if management is not facilitating that, then it means I'm not being valued at that particular point. So for us to evaluate our human resource, contribution of human resource, we also be concerned about the rate at which our employees are reporting to work, or at which rate our employees are coming to work. So if there's a lot of absenteeism, then it means that our employees are not valued at work, and that's why they are also not willing to report to work regularly. So there are different causes for absenteeism. For this one, you can read. Then we'll discuss another point, that's attrition rate. Attrition rate. Attrition, the simple term that you are used to is employee turnover. Employee turnover. Now, when you talk of employee turnover, this is the number of employees that we recruit against the employees that leave our organization. There are some organizations that they will recruit. If you visit that organization to conduct a research and find out who amongst those employees who has worked for a very long period of time, you'll find that the longest serving employee is less than 2 years. And that organization has been there for a very long period of time. Then that communicates to you that if this organization has been there for a very long period of time and the longest serving employee is only 2 years old, then it means the turnover is high. And if turnover is high, then it means that this organization does not value their employees. And that's why the employees will come, get a 1 year experience or 2 year experience, then use that as a stepping stone now to move to other field. They come to train, then they move to other field. Once they get experience, they move to other employers. Remember, when employees leave, there's a high cost we pay to get a new employee. We looked at a recruitment cost. We have to advertise for vacancies, to identify, first of all, there's a vacancy. Advertise for that vacancy. Shortlist the prospective employees. Conduct interviews with them. Recruit them. Train them. After training them, then they leave, and you have spent a lot of money to get them on board. Again, you have to undergo the same process. So in that case, we end up spending so much money just recruiting and training employees. So if organization does not maintain their employees, then it means they don't value their employees. And at times, the reason why employees will leave are basic. An employee was just seeking for a quality work life. That employee was looking at a good working environment, but that was not provided. So in that case, he'll have to look for an alternative, to look for an alternative employment. So if organization value the employee, they will be able to provide those services. And in that case, they'll control the rate at which employees leave their organization. Some of the reasons that employees leave are a lack of growth and progression. If you are not being promoted, so most likely you look for another organization. Or being overworked, if you are at all, your employer is not considerate enough, is giving you a lot of workload. In that case, you look for an alternative. Then if there's lack of feedback and recognition, we have talked to this when we are talking about appraisal, and we said sometimes organization or sometimes management or sometimes top leadership, they only concentrate on giving us negative feedback. That if you complain, for example, after this class, we can do a try. After this class, if you raise a complaint, I give you a contact person, you send a complaint. That complaint by Monday, I'll have gotten feedback on it. But if you give a compliment, probably for a whole week, I will not get that feedback. I'll get that feedback maybe later later next month, when we'll have physical and the mood is different. In that case, now that particular manager can come and say, by the way, your students have praised you, students are talking good about you and all that. So in that case, if we don't give those positive feedbacks, employees will be forced to leave, because they also like to work where they are appreciated. If you give those feedback, it means you are also appreciating the effort by that particular employee. And then little opportunity for decision making. Imagine if you are working in an organization, but now that organization has limited you on what you can make decision on. That you are only supposed to report in the morning, and you ask to be assigned roles. So you don't know if I leave office today, I don't know if I come tomorrow, what am I going to perform? What am I going to do? So in that case, I will be obliged to look at opportunities if I can leave that particular organization. So in that case, that will contribute to high attrition rate. Then we have poor employee selection. At times, because of nepotism, tribalism, or whichever you want to refer to it, corruption, we might select somebody who does not have the necessary skills to perform certain duties. So once he come in, he realizes he cannot fill that particular position. So if he cannot fill that particular position, then he will be forced to leave the employment. So in that case, again, it will lead to high attrition rates. Just to mention some of the reasons that make employee to be absent that we have highlighted up there, some of them also make those employees to be to quit organization. And absenteeism is a simple indicator that this employee is likely to leave. If we have an employee who is consistently, today he is in, tomorrow he's not in, the following day he's in, the third day he come 2 days consecutively, the third day he is absent, that particular employee is indicating that he is likely to leave that organization very soon. But if at all employees consistently coming, and if he has to be out, he'll ask for permission, that's an indicator that that particular employee is likely to serve with us or work with us for a relatively longer period. Because those who are being absent, at times, those absenteeism, because they cannot, it's not easier for me to ask my supervisor for permission to go and attend an interview with a competitor or who is perceived a competitor to my organization. So in that case, if I have to go and attend to that particular interview, I'll look for alternative, I'll look for excuse. How do I go for this particular interview? So I'd rather just be absent. In case they call, I'll say I was sick or I had this problem that will not allow me to come to work. But now that's not the major reason. I was attending to an interview. So after interview, probably I'll also be sneaking out to go and attend for induction training. Once I've stabilized on the second job, now I'll come and officially quit my job. So in that case, some of the indicators, when we see absenteeism, is an indicator of that particular employee quitting the employment. Then the other areas we also look at is salary competitive ratio. Salary competitive ratio. And when you talk of salary competitive ratio, we are looking at how much money are we paying this particular employee compared to what other organizations are willing to pay that particular employee, or what is recommended for that particular employee. And I'll give you an example. Sometimes in early 1990s in Kenya, we had a Public Service Commission and we also had Teacher Service Commission. Now, these two commissions had different scales. That if I had trained as a teacher and I've employed as by TSC, whenever Public Service Commission makes an advertisement, because they're giving bigger salary, higher salary, I'm likely to apply for that job so that I quit my teaching job and go and join the Public Service Commission until the time they realize that education is now suffering because somebody will register and train as a teacher, but now after training as a teacher, graduating as a teacher, he come and apply and do administrative work as a public service officer. So in that case, there was a high attrition rate, there was high turnover from teachers as compared to administrative officers joining the teaching fraternity. So whenever TSC would advertise for vacancy, we wouldn't see much of public service officers applying to become teachers. But now, majority of teachers will apply to join Public Service Commission. So in that case, the government had to rationalize and harmonize those salaries. In that case, now they have reduced that rate of attrition. So very few teachers will apply for jobs in Public Service Commission because even if you apply, he still get the same salary. So there will be no big difference in whatever he earns. So organizations that pay a competitive salary, it means they also value their employees and they wouldn't like their employees to leave for other reasons. So that marks the end of that particular chapter. That marks the end of that particular chapter. Before I introduce the last chapter, that's chapter 8, as a breather, have you confirmed your scores for CATS and work-based? Anybody who has confirmed the scores for CATS and work-based? Let's wait to introduce this chapter 8. Nancy, have you seen your scores? Jacqueline?
Yeah, I've seen the scores, but I'm unable to interpret.
You are unable to?
As in I don't understand. I guess the workload was over 30
Yes.
and the cut also over 30, but I'm seeing you put it on a percentage, 100. So I
It
don't get.
it's rated on a no. Okay, I
Mm,
marked out of 30 for both.
mm,
Probably if it no, because whatever I put, I didn't see it on percentage perspective. Though the system also has its mechanism, the computer and they have data analytics, so they could have converted to percentage, but it's out of 30. Both it's out of 30.
Okay.
And someone else who has seen and probably is having challenges.
As for the cut,
Yeah,
I can see in the first column,
yeah.
it's written 23.08%,
Mm-hmm.
followed by 26,
Mm-hmm.
then 86.67%, then
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
20%. So I don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's 26. That's the 26 out of 30. So try on your own. Try to calculate this. 26
Hmm.
divided by 30 times 100.
What about the one in the last column, 20%?
Okay. Just a minute. Calculate that, and then we go to the other.
Okay.
26 divided by 30 times 100. What do you get?
We do it. 86.6%.
Yeah. So now those other small percentages,
Hmm.
there are percentages per question.
Okay.
For example, that whatever you are saying 20%, it could be
Hmm.
the score you got. Let's say if you got 7 out of 10, the question was out of 10. So to
Hmm.
do 7 divided by 30 and then times 100, that's why it has given the score, the contribution of that particular question towards that. So, but now what will be recorded is that 26 out of 30. That's your score.
Okay, thank you.
Is that okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome. Is there anybody probably who also has a challenge? Any other person who has a challenge with the cat? If there's none, I believe we can end the class at that point. We are only remaining with the one chapter. So this one chapter we can discuss in next weekend, God willing. But next weekend I will not be available, I will not have access to internet. I know where I'll be. I'll not have access to internet. So next week we'll not have a class. But when we meet after next week, we'll be dealing with the last chapter. Then we conclude our classes. So unless if there's any question or concern that we can address, I'll take this opportunity to wish you a nice weekend. Let's meet after next week, God willing.